as an adult, 2013, you're in a low space. You're anxious, you're having panic attacks, you're feeling depression. What did it look like from there?
I was just thinking to myself, I wasn't sleeping. I was just in a big mess and just by myself. And I'm like, there has to be another way out of this.
And what was that? What's going on, guys? My name is Noah, and I am so happy to be sitting here with my friend and now I guess my dietitian, because we just filmed her kind of assessing me from a professional standpoint. Anyway, I'm sitting here with Colleen. She is many things, right? She's many things, but one thing she is, in the context of me wanting her to be on this channel and wanting her to meet you guys, is a very well-spoken, empathetic, kind-hearted, and empowering personality online. So she has an Instagram following of 22,000, which I hope to get up to who knows how many thousands by the time this video goes out. I would love to give her a boost there because she's truly endearing and inspirational, and she's easy to connect with. And we talk about a lot of mental health stuff on this channel. It's a big part of it, all of this: depression, mental health, insecurity, basically our life experience in navigating this world. Colleen has a really graceful way of doing that. In person, of course. I've gotten to know her at the gym. She's one of the athletes that I get to coach once in a while, which I really appreciate. But her online presence is just beautiful. It's candid, and I connect with it deeply. So I just wanted to bring her on here, and we're going to get to know Colleen a little bit today, and she's going to edify herself, and we're just going to see what comes up. But first and foremost, please go check out her Instagram, Nutrition Translator. She happens to be a registered dietitian, and you can kind of get that vibe that she really cares about health and wellness. But right on here it says hooping, yoga, fear-facing, vegan food, poems, podcasts. And if you read any of her posts, which we're going to do live here, they're beautiful, and they just connect with people, and they make me think, and they make me feel less alone, and I liked it. So I wanted to get her on here to meet you guys. So Colleen, welcome.
Thank you, Noah.
And thank you for being here. Tell people just a little bit about yourself. Like if someone were to meet you and you say, "Hi, I'm Colleen," they're like, "Colleen, what do you do?" How might you answer that?
I would say who I am and my mission in life. My mission is to help people connect, to heal, and to self-actualize.
What is self-actualizing?
I would say self-actualizing is becoming the person that you really, truly are without any challenges or any obstacles in your way.
Okay. That's beautiful. How did you come into this space of online mentorship, an Instagram following, becoming a registered dietitian? How did you come into the space where you are now a healer? In my experience, most people that try to embody an experience on this planet of helping other people overcome things and being of service to their fellow man or woman usually have gone through the mud first. It's very rare, in my opinion, that someone can be successful at empathizing and connecting with everyday people without having been through something.
So I think what it comes down to is like I struggle with anxiety, and I have my whole life. And that really is like my primal cue, and I was in a rut with that. And what I think of a primal cue is something that is like a primal driver to get you out of that stuck place. So I got to a point where my anxiety was so bad that I couldn't function. And
When was that?
I would have to say it got really bad in 2013.
Okay. So about 6 years ago.
Yeah, about 6 years ago.
What did that look like on a specific, acute, momentary basis? Like you said, it got really bad. Are we talking panic attacks? Are we talking agoraphobia? Are we talking, what does that mean? Like, what does it really look like when you're in that bad space? And do you really know how you wandered into that space?
I do now. I know how I got there.
Sure.
From like, past trauma.
Okay.
Growing up. But I think what that looked like was I was just afraid to do the things that I know I wanted to do to achieve my goals. And I was just stuck there, and it was constant. I wasn't able to confront people. I wasn't able to have conversations with people. I wasn't able to be vulnerable. I was stuck inside, literally, just by myself in isolation, and wasn't able to get out of that. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, really.
Sure.
Like when you're in it, And then when you're out of it now, I mean, I still go in it, don't get me wrong. Like,
of course.
I'm in it sometimes still, but it's just,
Sure.
it's more of a fluctuation. I'm not in it as long.
Yeah.
And I think that I'll always have that part of myself. Like, I'll always have the anxious part, but I just won't be in it as long.
Gotcha.
So what does that look like? I would say, yeah, panic attacks.
So you have had panic attacks?
Mm-hmm.
Those are scary.
Yeah, they're scary.
Really scary.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some panic attacks myself. When did those start for you?
They got pretty bad around the 2013.
2013.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is post school, right?
Yeah, post school, got out of school, and I actually lived in Colorado at the time.
Right.
And my partner, Alex, he was living in Ohio, and we were separated during that time. And
Must have been hard.
Yeah, that was really hard. And it was my first real job as a dietitian. I was working in a nursing home. I had to move all my things and live in Colorado by myself. And I just found myself there alone, even more isolated. I didn't know anybody. I had to make new friends. And I think maybe that's what triggered it even more, is I didn't have anybody there.
No kidding. So you were at it alone a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of time between the years, potentially.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity, I like to put it that way, to face what I was experiencing. And I guess I didn't really have a choice, I felt like. It's like, I'm going to be stuck here, or I'm going to help myself out of it.
Yeah. And what was the key to helping yourself out of it? So in 2013, you're in a space of tremendous despair. You're having anxiety a lot. Did that trickle into depression, or did it feel more acutely like anxiety?
I think it trickled into depression too.
Sure. And how long were you like in that space? Like, if that was your bottom, was that your mental and emotional bottom, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. As an adult, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll dig into any of your childhood or if it's necessary or whatever. But as an adult, 2013, you're in a low space. You're anxious. You're having panic attacks. You're feeling depression. You clearly, you're struggling. You're going through a major stress. Like, what did it look like from there? I mean, did you have hope that it was going to get better? Did you feel hopeless? And did you get overwhelmed with that? I mean, what did that look like for you?
I think I felt some hope because I was able to reach out for support.
Good.
And I knew there was another way. I'm like, I was just thinking to myself, I wasn't sleeping. I was just in a big mess and just by myself. And I'm like, there has to be another way out of this.
And what was that?
And reaching out to see a counselor.
Just getting some leadership.
Getting someone to hold space for me, because
Right.
I never had that before. And when you can get someone to hold space for you, then that gives you the opportunity to get out of the fight or flight and to tap into your own inner wisdom, which I wasn't able to do because I was always in the fight or flight state.
Right. So for people that might not know, how would you describe fight or flight?
So you can describe fight or flight in the physical symptoms. So racing heart rate, sweating, confusion, overwhelm, not able to make decisions, not able to sleep, feeling panicky. That's kind of like.
And do you think that
like.
sort of state ruled you for a long time? That's rough.
Yeah, many years.
And what are some, I think you may have just said it, so excuse me, but what are some of the ways that you know now, like looking back, hindsight being 2020, what are some of the ways that you are sure being in that state was, how was it impacting you in a negative way? I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you were going to be able to plot it, like, while being in the state at that time led to or made sense of.
Definitely the cost of, I wasn't sleeping well, and then when we're not sleeping well, then that manifests in all other areas. And then I'm coming to realize now that when we're in constant fight or flight or in emotional distress, and that's held in the body, that can be manifested in the physical form.
Such as?
So then I was having digestive issue problems and, skin issues. I struggled with acne for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, and I found that was manifesting, coming out in my skin.
Wow.
All the anxiety and angst and fear was just like coming out through my skin.
How did you cope when you didn't necessarily have the tools yet at that time? Like, what were some ways that you sought relief, if you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, that's a good question. How did I cope?
Or maybe you feel like you didn't.
I think my coping was distraction.
Yeah.
And distraction through like social media or internet.
Sure.
Just like trying to immerse myself to get away from my current reality.
Yeah.
TV, anything like that. External validation, looking for that in any way, shape, or form. Finding, and then that somehow I was able to, it was able to help me. It was a coping mechanism, a very unhealthy coping mechanism. What else? I don't know. I would isolate.
Sure.
And that was my coping mechanism, which I'm realizing is not a very good one.
Right. It's a strange thing, the isolation thing for me personally. There's this crazy desire to be alone when I feel poorly or less than optimally, but there's this intuitive sense that I know I should not be alone, and to ignore that voice and to get what I need rather than, or as opposed to what I think I want. It's a conundrum though, because even to this day, when I don't feel super great, I still want to just literally be left alone from everyone and anything, from the whole world. I still have that instinct, even though it's never served me per se. I mean, minor moments of being alone, of course, can be healthy, but anyway, escaping, I suppose, is the issue. Escaping. So you're in this bad space. You had some childhood trauma that you just said you hadn't dealt with, and you found a counselor. Did you know where, like, what you wanted to do with yourself, or what you were trying to, what the bigger picture might be, or was your world small and your vision short as opposed to like what's going to happen next? Yeah,
it was very limited.
Yeah,
I was just in a place where I was like, I have this anxiety, help me get out of it. What can you do? Like,
and what did she tell you? And what ended up working?
It was I think it was just a matter of just talking about my feelings more. Yeah. Because I was so closed off to what was happening emotionally inside of me. I didn't realize that I had all these emotions. I was just cutting them off. And I know my friend in high school, who I'm still really close with, she would have described me as an emotionless robot. Oh. In high school. Wow. Because she thought I didn't have any emotions. Because
you kept your affect pretty mild and then kept yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
Would you have been described as an introvert?
Oh yeah, complete introvert. I wouldn't share anything with anyone. I didn't express any emotion or any expression. And she just compares me today to who I was, and she's like, you're just a completely different person. Sure. Yeah. So what the counseling did was just able to help me tap into my emotions and actually feel them instead of numb them.
So getting out of that darkest pit, how long did that take you? And I understand, like in my experience, it's something I have to finesse for some people online who are like, when am I going to feel normal and better, and when is it going to be completely over? And I have found that as my mental stability has improved, and I've definitely gotten some solid ground, and my ceiling my ceiling got a little bit higher, and my floor got a little bit higher with it, as opposed to dipping super low and staying there for so long. It's a day-to-day thing, even still. I personally know that and believe that. I think it's most of the way I manage mental health problems, anxiety, addiction, depression, whatever, is kind of contingent upon the lifestyle I live, the choices I make, and the upkeep, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical upkeep that I do. But that being said, how long was your road into a more hopeful state? How long and windy was your path to getting to a space where you're like, I'm officially now wanting to be a healer, for lack of better words. I want to use my experience to help other people. It sort of led to your Instagram.
It was bumpy. Yeah, I would say up until this past year.
Really?
Yeah, this past year. I finally got a better handle on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what was clicking, what wasn't clicking?
What was clicking and what wasn't clicking?
Like a better handle. So it's a few year handle, and that's I mean, some people might hear that and go, oh my God, that's forever. But no, it's like a progression.
Yeah, it's a progression.
Yeah, absolutely a progression. What part of the progression stuck, and what were you struggling with? Like, what's been the hardest thing for managing anxiety?
I think the hardest part for me was letting myself be okay that I could reach out for support.
Even consistently beyond the counselor?
Yeah, yeah. Once I did that, I mean, it was still a struggle, and we need more than just a counselor. We need like a team. We need a community around us. We need a tribe, really, and it just was consistently hard for me to do that, just because I felt like I was always a burden. I didn't want to burden people with my feelings or my emotions or me being too much. That's been a theme of my life, of me feeling like I'm gonna be too much for anyone to handle. Like my feelings are just gonna be like, F that, getting out of here, like see you later. So that really prevented me from doing that and reaching out more, which created more isolation. It was like, okay, I'll take one step forward and then 5 steps back. And then, so finally got to a point where I met a counselor therapist here in Portland area, and she did what with me called yoga therapy.
Yoga therapy?
Yeah.
So what's that?
Yeah. So yoga therapy is kind of like talk therapy, but also does somatic work too.
What's somatic work?
Okay, so talk therapy is really important, but then we can only go so far with talking about our feelings.
Sure.
And, all of us store the feelings and emotions within our body, and we hold that. And you can think of animals, like when they get scared or they get traumatized, or like a horse, they shake it off,
Right.
and then they're not traumatized anymore from it. The event itself maybe might have been kind of scary, but they don't hold anything after from that. With humans, what we do is we have a really amazing brain, so when we have a traumatic event, we tend to hold on to it afterwards, and we tend to create stories about it afterwards, and we hold it within our bodies. So we can only talk so much, and we have to get to the point where we have to release it from our bodies like animals do.
So the movement and the expression of yoga is sort of a way to do that.
And the yoga therapy isn't necessarily like a flow yoga vinyasa. It's more like different postures to release an emotional, states. So she'll put me in child's pose, so I feel more protected, or she'll put me in like a wide-legged stance with my arms up to feel more confident and more open and more expressive. That one's really hard for me, and to be seen in that.
Right.
And then also for her to hold that space, like I was saying before, so I can get out of that fight or flight and then tap into who I really am, my authentic self, which I never had been able to express before because I was just so fearful all the time.
Sure. When did the Instagram start? When did the verbal expression and the photography and the photography and the photography start? When did this start for you? Like to where, you're like this, you just look happy, you look vibrant, it looks so artistic. She's in her own space, just owning it, like pictures like that where like you see that, like the caption is, I just want to run around with my camera and notebook, exploring, observing the inner workings of my mind, others' minds, and everything that is true. I just want to live in a world full of mountains, campfires, coffee, rivers, smoothies. I mean, you have this there's so much vitality in your Instagram expression. It's really cool. Like the first thing I thought when I saw it, my wife and I started reading your post, like, man, more people should know about Colleen. They should read her posts, because it's like it was kind of striking to meet you, and you still have a very calm, pretty quiet demeanor. I wouldn't say like a timid, meek sort of thing, but you're certainly just very calm. You have a very pleasant, calm demeanor. I wouldn't have realized that there was so much noise in you just by meeting you. Now, granted, at the gym, we're there to work out.
Yeah.
We're not, you know what I mean? Like, I get context matters, but when did this begin?
The Instagram has been huge for my self-expression. And
Sure.
I started it, I think, 2015 was like my first post. And it was mainly just like, I'll just post about some food
Sure.
and what I eat. And then it quickly evolved into something like, I can create these beautiful pictures of my food and style it and make it very colorful and express what's going on in the inside of me. Because I'm very introspective
Right.
and I think a lot about things. I think that has my nature of just being like introverted. So it quickly evolved into, maybe I can write some poems
Yeah.
here, and maybe I can help somebody connect and relate to me. And then doing pictures of yoga and my yoga journey as well. It's been evolving in the past 3 years. So that's when I, about 2 years ago, I started doing yoga more consistently. So... And then I felt like, okay, now people are actually connecting with me. So then it allowed me to be more vulnerable and share even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2015, you said, and it's just sort of been picking up since then. Because I have a YouTube following, and I feel like growing a following on Instagram is like impossible. It's such a saturated, and so is YouTube, it's such a saturated, loud platform, and there's so much noise on there. A lot of it white. I mean, in my opinion, white noise. There's just a lot of... It's the $5 entry table for expression. So is YouTube. It's part of what makes social media so interesting, is that amongst the sea of people hoping, wanting to be heard, and those that just want to share and connect with friends, people will sort of stand out a bit. When did it dawn on you that it would be more than your friends and family who might be interested in listening to your expression, and interested in hearing from you, learning from you, whatever? When did that click with you, and what did that mean to you?
That's an interesting question. Now I'm putting like 2 and 2 together. I think it really started clicking about a year ago when I started to see my yoga therapist.
Oh, interesting.
Because then, that's an interesting connection I just made. Yeah. And I was also seeing that, on my Instagram I was getting more followers and it was growing at the same time. And then I'm like, if I am more open and I do share and I am more vulnerable, people actually will relate to that, and I just continued to get more from being more vulnerable, which seems counterintuitive. You know, I think a lot of us feel like if we're not vulnerable and we don't share what's going on inside, then we're strong.
Right.
But it's actually the opposite.
It turns out to be the opposite. That's been my experience on my platform as well. In fact, I mean, this is sort of off topic, but this is, I might even cut this. This might just be between you and I. We'll see. But I've had to be careful on my channel to not fall in love with being messy, because I found that kind of the worse I'm doing, the better my views are doing. The more stable I get, the more my views go down. So when there's problems with me, so to speak, which could just be life, so I don't want to inherently call any up and down a problem, but when things aren't going as well, I've always seen a surge in growth.
Makes sense.
Always. When things are like, if Noah's just doing good for months and months and months, I don't know if people just get bored, or it's just, I don't know, but it's just different, you know. And maybe it just means that there are a lot of people suffering that connect with me not doing well, and someone being more stable is just like not acutely as needed. I don't know, but I always found that very curious. And I've had to be like, Noah, do not fabricate shit in your life because you need the view or something like that. I don't know if you've noticed that for you.
Oh yeah, totally noticed that. Yeah. People, I mean, you see on Instagram like the perfect life of people living like these amazing lives, and I mean, I guess they get views and stuff too, but I don't know, let's just talk about what's real. You know, and that seems to connect with people.
Yeah, and I feel like you are genuinely good at doing that. I probably feel like I'm kissing your ass too much when it comes to that, but you have a gift of expression. That's why I wanted you on here. It's good. It's just inherently good. It's the kind of thing that could just help someone through a rough day, or give someone perspective, or like we talked about, just let people know that Colleen's having a rough day and she's scared and you're nervous and you're insecure and you're frightened, and then what do we end up doing? We're like, me too. Like, yeah, me too. And just the moment that happens, there's that ping of relief in your brain where you're just like, oh yeah, me too. Like, cool. You know, I am not alone. And I feel like that is something that has to be clearly a part of your mission. So present day Colleen, what's new for you now? Like, what gets your rocks going? Like, what's Colleen doing today? Where are you going from here? What do you still need to conquer? How many books are on your shelf? What's your favorite color?
My favorite. Okay, so what I need to conquer. What we're doing right now is something that I've been like putting off for so long.
The YouTubes?
Just like filming in general.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe the YouTubes now too.
I was gonna say, if she has a YouTube channel, folks, I'll plug it in the comment section below.
Nothing's really on there. Yeah, maybe I'll start building it. But yeah, so this has been something I've been procrastinating for a long time, and I think that comes up with my survival pattern of wanting to not be seen and to just, want to avoid. So this is one of the things. Okay. And I know how important it is to be up in front of a camera so people can trust you, so they can know you. I mean, Instagram's great and the pictures are great, but then also like seeing who I really am and my personality and seeing me talk, I think is really important to connect with people.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. So that's also on the horizon. I'm immersing myself in a year-long business course that's also combined with trauma. Ooh. So a trauma-informed business course, because in business there's a lot of stuff that can come up that is related to our trauma.
Okay.
So
are you comfortable, even in a vague way, talking about the kind of trauma that you've experienced? And because you mentioned trauma, you said it was part of the reason you were in a space of massive anxiety and debilitating mental space back in 2013. I know what my trauma is. Everyone who's watched my channel, they know what my trauma is. If you feel comfortable, what sort of trauma has impacted you in your life?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, so first let me set the stage for like what trauma is, because I think a lot of people think that something traumatic has to be physical or life-threatening or any like very severe. Right. For like a car accident or something physical abuse in that sense. But to the brain, trauma is trauma. So it can be on a scale of very severe to mild. But like I was saying, to the brain, trauma is trauma. Right. So trauma can be for someone, dad didn't show up for my track meets, for example, or someone else may experience trauma as, my mom was late picking me up every day from school, because our primary attachment figures, what they show us in our early stages of life, can really impact on who we are today, and our attachment patterns, which we can talk about attachment theory, which I'm really big on, and how that affects us today.
Okay.
So for me personally, my trauma is that my father was not emotionally available growing up, and I don't blame him for any of that. And in fact, he was a wonderful father. He gave financially, he was able to support, and he did the very best he could. But we're not perfect. Our parents aren't perfect, and they're just literally doing the best that they can. And, he wasn't able to give me the emotional support that I needed.
So physical support was there.
Yeah.
Food, shelter, so to speak, those sort of things, clothing, but emotionally there was a void there.
Yeah, there was a void, and I didn't feel like there was an attunement between the two of us.
Okay.
He's a doctor, and he's a very busy...
My dad's a doctor as well.
Yeah.
We
had that in common.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so I don't think I ever shared that with you.
Definitely not. I would have had an aha thing, just like I just did right there. But yeah.
Yeah, so he was busy, and he had a busy practice and all that, which makes total sense, but he wasn't there emotionally. So that left me feeling very alone and shame with that, because it's like, well, if I can't connect with my father, must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
So that came up a lot, and that's a theme of my life. I'm
Sure.
alone, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, there's something
I'm
bad or
too
wrong
much.
about me, right? That magical thinking, right? The kids think they have control over stuff like that. Now we can internalize that when we get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then that manifested into anxiety of me not being enough and good enough for anything, because I just didn't feel like I was important enough to be seen, because that didn't happen with my dad.
Okay. I think that's something a lot of people can relate with,
Yeah.
whether it be their dad, their mom, their attachment figure in general.
Yeah.
Man, what a tremendous responsibility being a parent is.
I know.
For the vulnerable mind of a child, and how we see things and process the world. It's wild.
Yeah, that's
wild.
one of the things that makes me hesitant about having children, because I don't have children, and I'm not sure if I want them, just
Same.
because like you're saying, it's such a there's a heaviness that can come with that. It's like, oh my gosh, we can only do so much, and we can only give so much, but there's still I'm sure there's still going to be trauma. Nobody's life is completely 100% functional. There's always some dysfunction, so there's going to always be some trauma.
Yeah, which is always going to entail a lot of responsibility for the parent. My mom jokes, she's like, boy, if I'd known parenting didn't stop at 18, because I think I've needed my mom. This probably isn't actually true, but it feels as though I've needed my parents more sometimes in my adulthood than I remember needing them as a kid. Like, as a kid, I thought I knew everything. I was a lot more arrogant and outspoken in that way, barring like the early years. But as an adult, I've slid on the ground. I've scraped my knees. I keep running into walls, and I need help and I need support. My parents are just, they joke about how it's like you kick them out of the nest and they don't necessarily fly. I definitely don't think I took off flying. I think I had like giant cardboard wings, and I mistook them for really big, beautiful feathered wings. But anyway.
Fell a couple times.
Yeah, Lord have mercy. So if we can, nice watch, by the way.
Calculator watch.
That is badass.
Who needs a smartwatch?
Dude.
And you can calculate it manually.
That's so good. There's a theory you wanted to discuss.
Right.
What is that?
Okay. So attachment theory.
Attachment theory. What is that?
Attachment theory is a theory in psychology that says, our primary attachment figures growing up can influence our attachment style. So there's 4 different attachment styles. The first, in no particular order. Sure. The first is anxious attachment, and that's pretty much what I have. I have an anxious attachment to, you can have different attachments to different things. So anxious attachment in relationships, you can have a different attachment to money, you can have a different attachment to your business, to your clients, to anything, But for me, it's pretty predominant. I might have an avoidant attachment to some things with my business. Remember I was talking about the cameras and being filmed, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Okay, so there's the anxious attachment. So in relationships, what that looks like is the person who's always wanting connection. So for me, I've always had wanted connection with my father. So any relationship that I get into, it's me wanting to feel seen and feel connected and feeling understood. So I'm the one like, okay, give me the connection, please, give me the connection. So I find myself that I have that. And then the second is avoidant, and that person usually avoids feelings, avoids emotions, is wanting independence, and wanting to just really distract and kind of get out of there. And what that can look like for two people coming together is, usually the anxious person connects with the avoidant person.
Yeah.
It's called the anxious avoidant trap, which is interesting. Okay, so we got anxious, we got avoidant, and we have disorganized, which is kind of the combination of the two. So it's like, oh, come here. Oh, no, just kidding. Go away.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can find that in relationships
Sure.
or anything like I was talking about. And then the last is secure. So secure attachment is what we want to strive for.
Right.
And that is just feeling safe in who you are and safe in your relationship, secure with money. Nothing necessarily can disrupt you in that. And we all have a little bit of each. We're not completely 100% secure. But the more you know yourself and the more you know your attachment pattern, the more you can shift out of that and become more of a secure person.
Gotcha. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to 2013 Colleen as 2019? 6 years later, you've grown, you've developed, you've had life experience, professional experience. You're not the same person, so to speak. What would you say to 2013 Colleen if you had to give her a leg up?
Yeah, definitely the first thing I would say is that you're not alone. And there's so much opportunity for connection and support out there. And you don't have to feel like you're a burden. And you don't have to be alone anymore. Because really, up until this past year, and particularly even like the past couple months, I really have felt like I've just been in an empty room my whole life with nobody there. So I would really just tell her, there is connection out there, and there is a support, and go get it. Because people, I want to help you. Just like you want to, I was my desire to help people. People are out there who want to help me.
And isn't that an interesting conundrum to feel? For example, if you were to hear someone say, I'm worthless, they're
no, you're
not. Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
quick knee-jerk reaction. Of course you're not worthless. But sometimes it can be so hard to lend that same empathy, understanding, and quick love to yourself. It's always been a very curious thing to give love, but not send love right back inside yourself in the same breath.
That's the curious thing about love, is that it's easier to give than to receive. It's much more scary to receive.
Yeah.
But we don't allow ourselves that, and we have this strong inner critic that comes up that we fight against.
Dude.
That inner critic, though, is there to protect us, so we can say thank you.
What does that mean? You explain that right now.
Okay.
Inner critic is there to protect us.
Right.
What does that mean?
Okay, so at one point or another, we've benefited from the inner critic.
How
or
so?
else it never would have come up.
Oh.
So what that might look like is just keeping us safe. So, if we grow up in a chaotic household, for example, maybe the father is yelling at us and we feel scared and overwhelmed. So getting away from that father and staying in isolation, and the inner critic might come up saying, okay, stay away from that person and protect yourself. That protected us because you stayed away from them. But now in the real world,
Doesn't have that same application.
doesn't have the same application.
Right.
You're safe now. You're the same threats that you had growing up are no longer there. But now we're just in a we're just hyper vigilant about threat.
Sure.
And we don't need to use the same protection mechanisms that we had to do in the past.
Right.
And we don't need to beat ourselves up as much, and we
Sure.
don't have to feel like we're not enough.
You kind of have to become your own parent.
Yeah. Spiritual reparenting, as I like to call it.
Yeah, reparenting yourself.
Yeah. Does that kind of answer your question a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It just,
Yeah.
I thought I knew what you meant, but I still wanted to hear you explain it, and just for any other curious listeners who are like,
How is that
a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, survival tool, right? We needed to survive at one point. We just need to understand we don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
cool thing to learn.
Yeah.
Colleen, where can people find you if they want to read more of your posts, get to know you better? If they want, by the way, she's a registered dietitian and a holistic, what did your thing say?
You can say holistic. Yeah, holistic health coach.
Holistic health coach, yeah. Wonderful resource there. If people wanted to find you and work with you, get to know you more, at least check you out online. Where can they do that?
Instagram, definitely Nutrition Translator, and my website, nutritiontranslator.com.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Smart of you to brand that both together.
Yeah.
Get those both together.
Both together.
Well played there.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what can you share with us about stress relief, different modalities for that, and emotional healing? What are some things close and near and dear to your heart that you have a good grasp on that you think other people should know about?
Okay, yes. So somatic body work is great. So if you've ever heard of sound healing, Reiki, acupuncture.
Yeah, okay.
What else? Massage. This is like a very common one. And EMDR is a type of therapy.
Is that what that is?
EMDR, I believe, is the eye. You go back and forth through your eye, but then also that's the tapping.
Right.
That's a really good one. That's called EF something.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a similar acronym. But yeah, that's when you can tap in different places, acupressure points. So that's a great. Have you tried that one? Yeah.
Put me in tears like that.
Crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then also things like vibration therapy.
Therapy.
So
have you tried most of these? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I tried most of these. So vibration therapy is basically like vibrating your body how an animal would to release the trauma from the body, or just to like get the body moving.
Sure.
Inversions, getting upside down. It's great for anxiety. Float tank.
Yes, I've wanted to do that for so long. I hear that endlessly from people. It's just it's a salt bath, right? And you become buoyant, right? Because of the
It's like you're floating in space.
Wow, and it's a relatively dark room, right?
It's all well. You have the decision to make it completely dark, or you can have like a little bit of light. I recommend going completely sensory deprivation.
There's one more thing you want to share in terms of what we were talking about last.
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
Yes. Okay. The last thing would be reframing our experience of suffering.
Hey, puppy. Settle.
I can put them back out too.
No, she's okay.
Okay, so if we reframing our experience of suffering, and we can experience it as light, heavy, or weightless.
Okay.
And if we experience suffering as heavy, then we're putting layers on top of it. So putting layers of meaning, of expectations on how it should look, or putting our control on it. And that adds layers to the suffering, which makes it heavier.
Can you give me an example of how that might play out in someone's mind? Like when you say putting layers on it, it doesn't have to be a personal scenario, but like what does that mean?
Yeah. So, and I'm an example with someone's health, for example.
Okay.
If someone's health starts, if they get a diagnosis, there's suffering in the actual health issue that's happening, but then you're adding layers of, oh, maybe I might die in a year from now, or
so catastrophizing.
Yeah, catastrophizing things, putting meaning on it. Oh, this makes me a bad person, or this makes me not enough, or this makes me invaluable.
I see.
So you're adding on top of it things that you're making it mean something that it isn't.
Right.
Which adds to the suffering.
Sure.
Or you could look at it lightly,
Okay.
with taking out the layers. So saying, okay, what can this suffering bring me? What can be born of this? How can I be informed by this?
Sure.
Which makes it lighter, because then there's some good that can come from it.
Of course.
And something that can be born from it. And then there's less reactivity.
Right.
So, yeah. So there's different ways to look at what we're experiencing, because we're ultimately in control of our experience. Yes, there's suffering there, and that's true, and that's valid. But we're in control of what we're adding to it. We're not innocent.
I like that, and that allows. I feel like that affords me or anyone an opportunity to not be a victim and not feel victimized in that space, and to understand that like we hold power over something. You know, we have there's actions we can take, and being able to differentiate the two. I certainly know that I have. It's been a slow building skill to not catastrophize and not to draw too many conclusions, and you know, like you don't believe everything you think, sort of thing, because I'm trying to get better at understanding when it's born in fear and when it's born in reality. And I think for me, that's why having leadership in my life is just helpful, because I sometimes I can see other people's stuff perhaps more clearly than my own, and the inner trappings, the way my brain works. So that's really, really huge.
We're very poor narrators of our own experience.
So weird.
To have a different perspective, a bird's eye view, sometimes what we can't do. That's why mentorship is so important in coaching and all that. So, yeah.
It's beautiful. Well, Colleen, thank you. It means so much to me that you came. I love how this whole thing has gone. I can't wait to see what people think, and I hope that it leads more people to you, the right people to you. So thank you for being on the channel very, very much. Guys, we did another video together. I'll put a link in the description for that as well. If you want to see what it's like to sit down with a registered dietitian and also a holistic life coach, she has a really very nice way of going through the entire human experience and then getting to the food as opposed to focusing just on the food. It was really informative and it was really cool. This was also very awesome. I hope you heard something here and felt something that made you want to come back. We'll see you guys in the next video. I certainly do appreciate your time. And yeah, you are muddy, girl. And that's all we got.
Okay.
Thanks, Colleen.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Yeah.
Done.
Did it.
Boom.